There's an important idea about creation in the book of Genesis that I have missed all my life. But it's not only an idea like a sentence in a book of philosophy, it makes practical demands in an unexpected way, partly because it can be meaningful even if you're not religious. When you carve something, you can't help but to live with it for a while because it takes time. The shape, the texture, the significance slowly emerge out of something that before had no recognizable shape. And the same is true for carving the written word. As I carve the Bible, sometimes a new awareness of what the text might be saying emerges. It's like a whale rising from a calm ocean to overwhelm you with its presence. And sometimes this emerging awareness can also be frightening. Like a whale crashing back into the ocean, the text can crash back down into life, creating waves that rock that small boat that shapes the boundaries of our lives. The verses that I carved on this tablet of black granite did create some waves for me. And as a warning, they might create some waves for you also as you watch this video. When we think of what the Bible teaches, we usually think about how we're supposed to treat other people. We think about treat others how you would like to be treated or love your neighbor as yourself. But rarely do we turn to the Bible when we consider animals and how we should treat them. Before we even get to the story of the apple, we get a very direct description of our true nature. One verse at the end of the first chapter of Genesis surprised me. And frankly, I don't remember ever reading it before. I only noticed it because I'm carving the Bible, and that forced me to read those verses more carefully. Now, I'm no Bible scholar, so maybe everybody already knows this and I'm just catching up. But for those of you who value the Bible, but are not big Bible readers, I think this might be an eye-opener. Let me read you the verse. It outlines a vision for creation I did not expect. This is Genesis chapter 1, verse 29. And God said, Behold, I have given you every seed-bearing herb which is upon the surface of the entire earth, and every tree that has seed-bearing fruit. It will be yours for food. Did you notice what is missing in this verse? It's something obvious, but I didn't notice it. The answer is animals. Animals are not mentioned in the story when God is telling the first humans what to eat. Animals are nowhere to be found as a source of food. The plain and simple reading of this verse seems to tell us that humans were created to eat only plants. That I did not expect when I started carving this tablet. What does the Bible, and in particular the book of Genesis, really tell us about how to treat animals? Does it tell us that we can eat animals because we have dominion over them? Or does it say that we were created to live in harmony with animals and only eat plants? My name is Francisco, and welcome to Carving the Bible. On this channel, I reflect on the verses I'm carving. In this video, I'm working on Genesis chapter 1, verse 28 to chapter 2, verse 8. I'm carving the Bible to try to preserve it in a more durable medium than paper for the people of the distant future. If you'd like to find out more, I'll put a link in the description below. Now, I know that later on in Genesis, in the story of Noah, people are told that they can eat animals. But according to this story, that's not how we were created. In this story, we were created to live in harmony with animals from the very beginning. If we were created like this, it's our true nature. And if we want to be true to our essential nature, it seems we need to have a plant-based diet. I think that this could be bad news if you believe in the Bible because being vegan is hard. Let me interject here that I'm not trying to preach to you. I am not vegan. I wish I was. I would like to be. So I struggle with this issue just as much as anyone. What I don't do is I don't eat poultry or pork, because I think those animals are the most horribly abused animals in the factory farming that is common today. How they're treated every day of their lives in those factory farms is a shock to anyone's conscience. I do eat fish and dairy and eggs. I justify it by thinking that fish are not that smart, and I know I probably shouldn't be eating eggs or dairy products, thinking at least that I'm not eating dead animals, so it's not that bad. But those animals are not treated well either. Somehow I justify it. As I said, being vegan is difficult. Well, what about dominion, you might say? Didn't people get dominion over the animals in this same chapter of Genesis? Doesn't that give us a right to eat them? Interesting question, and this might be a good point to read the verses I'm carving in this video. it will give us some context and maybe shed light on that question. Starting with chapter 1, verse 28, right after people are created. And God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it, and rule over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the sky, and over all the beasts that tread upon the earth." And God said, "Behold, I have given you every seed-bearing herb, which is upon the surface of the entire earth, and every tree that has seed-bearing fruit, it will be yours for food. And to all the beasts of the earth, and to all the fowl of the heavens, and to everything that moves upon the earth, in which there is a living spirit, every green herb to eat." And it was so. And God saw all that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And it was evening, and it was morning, the sixth day. And the heavens and the earth and all their hosts were finished. And God had finished on the seventh day his work which he had made. And he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And God blessed the seventh day and hallowed it, because on it he rested from all his work which God had created in making it. These are the histories of the heavens and the earth when they were created, in the day that the Lord God made earth and heavens and every shrub of the field before it was in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew. For the Lord God had not caused it to rain on the earth, and there was no man to till the ground. But a mist went up from the earth and moistened the whole surface of the ground. And the Lord God formed man, dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. And the Lord God planted a garden in Eden eastward, and there put man whom he had formed. The issue of dominion comes in verse 128 when God says to the new humans, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it, and rule over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the sky, and over all the beasts that tread upon the earth." Sometimes the word rule is translated in English as to have dominion, but the meaning is very similar. The question is, does the role of ruling or having dominion include killing and eating the animals? Let's start by stepping into the shoes of someone living in ancient Israel, around 1000 BC, around the time of King David or King Solomon. For them, dominion was a familiar idea. Kings ruled over their lands with authority and usually military strength. In the ancient Near East, dominion was about political and military control. Kings were often seen as representatives of the gods and entrusted with ruling lands and peoples. And this idea carried on right through to the French Revolution in France almost 3,000 years later. But what does dominion over all creation mean, especially when it's not about kingship or war? In Genesis, there's no military conquest, no battles, no kingship as we traditionally think of it. Instead, Genesis gives humans rule over creation in a completely different context. It's about responsibility and a harmonious relationship with the earth. We are not conquerors in this original vision. We are caretakers. Some theologians talk about human stewardship over creation. In this creation story, God's original design was that humans weren't meant to kill or eat other living creatures. They also have a living spirit. Animals were blessed with the same blessing as humans. Be fruitful and multiply. Instead, we were to live in a world of peace and abundance, where plants are enough to meet all our needs. I found this to be a surprising position for a story whose oral traditions come from the Bronze Age and was probably written down during the Iron Age. I say that because the brutality of many of the kingdoms during that time is almost unimaginable today. And yet, the people understood that animals had a living spirit, and creation could not have been envisioned in a way that disregarded that. But people 3,000 years ago ate animals, so how did the early Israelites justify that? With the fall of humanity in Genesis chapter 3, the world that was once peaceful is broken. Hardship and death enter the scene, and soon after, in Genesis chapter 9, God tells Noah that animals can now be food for people. But in my opinion, that does not change our original nature as we were created. And it does not change our responsibility to be stewards of creation. Is this stewardship? Is this stewardship? Is this stewardship? Is this how we treat what God created and called very good. I think a lot of us watching this channel want to grow spiritually in some way, or at least I hope so. And we think that the Bible might help us to do that. But is it possible to grow spiritually when this kind of thing is happening? Is it possible to grow spiritually when we benefit on the back of this kind of suffering, on this kind of destruction? I'll let you answer that question for yourselves. If you would like to help protect animals from the abomination of factory farming, please consider contributing to Mercy for Animals. I will include a link to their website in the description in case you want to support their work. So what does all of this mean for us today? I think that Genesis 1:29 is at the very least calling us back to a more harmonious relationship with the earth. Our dominion over creation is about responsibility, not conquest and violence. Genesis 1:29 is not just about food. It's about a deeper vision for how we interact with the world around us. It challenges us to ask, how are we caring for the earth today? Are we living in ways that reflect the goodness of creation? Or have we, like the people before the flood, lost sight of our original calling?